Now we move to chapter 11 and we understand the three important or three different types of layouts that we can use to write a business letter. And we'll understand these letters purely from the point of view of the 7 compulsory obligatory parts for a business letter. Right? So quickly let's reverse. What are the 7 important points? First was the head address, that's the sender's address. Then we had the date line. Then we had the inside address, which was the receiver's address. We had the salutation, that is dear sir, respected sir, whatsoever it be. Then we had the body, that is the content of the letter. We have the complimentary closure, that is a polite, courteous ending to a letter. And last is the signatory, as in the one who has signed the particular letter, who has written and is signed the particular letter. So from these 7 aspects, let's look at the 3 let's look at the 3 layouts for a business letter. The very first of it being full block layout. Now full block layout is the most easiest format to remember to. Is all these 7 obligatory parts, all these 7 compulsory parts are on the left hand side to the letter. So if if a page has a margin, all these things will start from the margin. The name, the address, then you leave a certain space, 1 line, 2 line, depending on how big is your content of the letter. Then you write the date, you write the word date, or you can just write January 1, 2021. Then again you leave space, you write Mr. XYZ to whom the address is addressed to. That's the inside address, the receiver's address, the person's name. Then you leave some space. Then you write the salutation, respected sir, dear, ma'am. Leave 1 line, then you write the body of the letter. But everything starts touching the margin, the left hand side of the margin. So easy to remember is everything to the left. That is a full block layout. Then we move to the second layout, which is the modified block layout. Okay, a way to remember this is left to right. Okay, that is 2 parts of the letter, that is the obligatory part, that is the date and sign, will move towards the right hand side of the page. So you start with the head address on the left, the date comes on the right hand side, the inside address again comes on the left hand side, the salutation comes on the left hand side, the body starts with left hand side, the complimentary closure is on the left hand side, then the signature goes on the right side, and you end your letter. So how do you remember is left to right. To right as in the date and the sign, they move to the right side of the page. Rest everything remains on the left hand side of the page. That's how we understand the modified block layout. And now we move to the third format, which is the semi-block layout. What is semi-block layout? A way to remember is it is an extension to modified layout. So the date and the sign remains on the right hand side. Everything else on the left hand side, but one thing moves to the center, that is the body moves to the center. So when you are writing your letter, when you start writing your letter, you leave approximately 2 to 3 fingers space, and then you start writing your paragraphs. When it ends, full stop, wherever it ends, the second paragraph will start from the same thing. Unlike the way it was in modified or the block layout, where after the full stop, again you move to the left hand side, right? So what is the way to remember this particular layout is left to right. Okay, so 2 as in your date and sign is on the right hand side. 1 center, that is the body of the letter is in the center. Okay, so head address left, date right, inside address left, then your salutation left, then your body starts with the center space. Wherever the full stop of first paragraph is, from there you continue the second paragraph. After that's done, your complimentary closure again goes on the left, and your signature, the last 7th part of your obligation parameter or the obligation aspect, goes again on the right. So left to right, 1 center. That's how we remember the semi-block layout. And with this, we finish the 11th chapter and move to the next chapter. We move to chapter 12, where we understand the basic or effective principles in order to make sure that our letter writing is up to the mark. So principles of effective business letter writing is what we have to understand in today's, in this particular chapter. There are more or less 6 principles we need to keep in mind when we are drafting the letter. Now, these principles are from the point of view of the sender, okay? How the sender should be careful enough to minimize, maximize these principles to make the letter very effective and up to the mark, that the reader, receiver is able to quickly understand what is being said, is expected from him to do, or give the response according to what has been drafted by the sender. So we'll quickly just go through these 6 points first, and then we'll take each of it in detail. So the very first is maximize the whole concept of you attitude, right? Then we have minimize the use of jargons. Next, understand the 7 C's clearly. Next, avoid or positive handling of negative feelings. Next, we have is to understand how effectively are we going to deliver some bad news positively in a good way, or how to handle negatives politely. And the last is where the emphasis and de-emphasis of your letter should lay. Okay, so let's look at it one by one. The very first is maximizing the use of you attitude or the empathetic attitude. Now, every time you draft a letter from the sender perspective, keep in mind what the reader will feel when he or she is reading this letter. He or she should feel elevated. When you're writing a sales letter, and if I'm reading that sales letter, I should feel as if this reel is just made for me. To make sure that I as a reader feel this, the sender needs to understand the emotions that I as a reader will have and draft the letter accordingly. It's as good as we loving our favorite authors writing their books. They always understand how the reader is going to interpret this particular message, and he pens down his words accordingly. So similarly is the concept of you attitude. You keep the receiver in the mind, you empathize with him, you understand or try to be in his or her shoes, and then draft the letter and see how effective it's going to be. So when we see as like LIC policy, जीवन बीमा आपके लिए, आपके family के लिए, emphasizing the words of you, yourself, yourselves, for your family. This offer is just lucrative enough for you and your family to grab it right away. We give you the best of whatever we have, just custom made for you, right? So make sure that you maximize the use of you attitude, you approach, empathetic approach in writing your letter. So that's the first principle. Then we move to the second principle, that is minimize the use of business jargons. Okay, let's understand, or let's look at a story to understand this. It was way back in the 19th century when Queen Victoria was ruling, and because it was a more of a pompous show, you had to be the best in everything. The way they would talk would be like, of course, apart from the accent, it would be like, may I have the pleasure of your company? May I please know when would you be comfortable enough to have a seating, or this and that. So using all business level jargons, sophisticated words that basically layman do not understand or sink along with. So in case if your letter has too much of these jargons, every time a person is going to receive a letter from you, he is supposed to sit with a dictionary and try to understand what it is. So for example, I can say that the word ultimo, okay, which means last month. So what is the meaning if I'm drafting a letter that I had the pleasure of your company ultimo and I'm really looking forward for it in proximo. That is, I had the pleasure of your company last month and I'm also looking forward to it next month. Why can't you just simply write that we had a good time last month, let's again plan something in neat in the coming month? Why use the word ultimo and proximo and make it more confusing? Right? So minimize the use of business jargons when you are drafting a letter. Gone are the days when we are in the British era and we have to talk sophisticatedly. Not that you do not talk, but when you're talking to a layman, when you do not understand that intellectually they may not be as strong with their vocabulary as you are, right? I always keep giving the example of Mr. Sashi Tharoor. excellent way of communicating, but most of his words go bouncers to most of the people, because as layman we may have not heard these words. Yes, there are people who understand his language, who are on his level, but not everybody. Majority of them feel that, oh God, talking to Sushil is going to make them feel complex, because his words are very high fun in nature. They are mostly business jargons for them, right? So let's not use a lot of these business jargons. And any which ways, a definition for jargon also means sometimes useless, meaningless words put into dictionary, making no sense or making it more technical in nature. So when two doctors are talking, in their language, will you be able to comprehend what they're saying? Or when two lawyers are talking in their language, unless they tell you कि आपके ऊपर कार्रवाई की जाएगी, you would not know what exactly it is. Or if you're suffering from certain disease, the doctor will tell you that सिर दर्द है, and not a medical term for सिर दर्द है. The communication becomes easier. So two principles are maximize the you attitude, minimize the business jargon. Now let's look at the most important and sorted after aspect, which are the 7 C's of business communication that we should remember all through our life.